Uh, Good morning, everyone. My name is Mo Samak. I'm with the City of Solana Beach. With my partner, Minji May of City of Santee, we'd like to welcome you to our joint meeting of CTAC, SANTAC for December 16, 2021. As usual, we have a full agenda and we're a little bit behind, but I'm confident that we can get through the agenda in time. Just a couple of housekeeping items. Just a reminder that please keep your microphone in a mute position. When you want to make a comment or talk or ask questions, you can use the raise hand option. You could also add some comments on the chat section. I'm sure we will keep an eye on it, and Tim will notify us, and we'll give you the floor. And when you speak, please tell us your name and your agency and which team you are representing. That is all I have. When we get to the approval of the minutes, we'll provide a little bit more information. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Minji to get into item number 2.
Okay, thank you, Mo. Item number 2 is public comments and communication from members. Do we have any members of the public who want to address the committee? I don't see any hand raised. Any comments from staff?
Good morning. This is Alex Estrella. The only more of an announcement, as you so I'm trying to get my camera online. The 2021 regional plan was adopted last Friday by our board.
Apologies, Alex. I think your microphone is acting up.
Is it? Can you guys hear me now? Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Alex. We can hear you, but your microphone has some weird noise to it. Try it again.
Hear me now?
Still the same.
Okay, come back to me.
Why don't you go ahead and make your announcement? That's okay.
Bear with me, I want to switch. Can you hear me now?
Oh, that's better.
Much better.
Apologize for the technology. Yeah, I just wanted to make an announcement based on last week's board meeting. Our 2021 regional plan was adopted. So that was great news for the region. And I'm sure you already heard, it's all over the news, but just want to make that announcement. The board then subsequently also included an amendment or a future effort to amend the plan for the next, start working on some of the details on and providing that information internally with regards to the road usage charge. So there's a lot of work that's going to be happening over the next months, but I just wanted to make that announcement if you have not heard. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Alex. With that, I'll turn it over to Mo.
Thank you, Minji. We're on item number 3. This portion of the agenda is approval of the minutes of our last meeting. Just as a house cleaning items, please, when you're called upon, tell us which agency you represent and what discipline you represent. So we start with CTAC first. We go through the voting procedure as well as taking attendance. So Tim will help us to get through this process. Unlike last time, I like to first ask, entertain a motion for approval of the meeting for last meeting. Do we have someone who can make a motion for approval of the meeting?
Move to approve.
And very good. We have,
Zubair Wada, County of San Diego, Santec.
thank you, Zubair. I saw your name. I didn't want to pre-approve. Thank you, Zubair, for moving the approval. And I, at most, Samak City of Solana Beach, moves for second. So with that, Tim, please call the roll and take the vote.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to start with City of Carlsbad for CTAC.
Najida, abstain.
Thank you. City of Chula Vista.
Frank Rivera, yes, approve.
Thank you. City of Coronado.
Jim Newton, approve.
Thank you. City of Del Mar.
Tim Keeley, abstain.
Thank you. City of El Cajon.
Mario Sanchez, I approve.
Thank you. City of Encinitas. I don't see anyone in attendance. City of Escondido.
Procopio, approved.
Thank you. City of Imperial Beach.
Juan Larios, approve.
Thank you. City of La Mesa.
Phil Kern, City of La Mesa, CTAC, approve.
Thank you. City of Lemon Grove. I don't see anyone in attendance. City of National City. I don't believe anyone is in attendance for City of National City. City of Oceanside. No. City of Poway. City of San Marcos. City of Santee.
Minji approve.
Thank you. City of Vista.
Matt Atterbury, City of Vista, approve.
City of San Diego.
Gary Chewy, City of San Diego, abstain.
Thank you. City of Solana Beach.
Oh, Samak, I second it, but I approve. Thank you.
County of San Diego.
Bill Morgan, County of San Diego, CTAC, approve.
Thank you. NCTD. And MTS. Okay. So with that, the meeting minutes for CTAC are approved. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Tim. Now I entertain a motion for Santac minutes of the meeting. Do we have Zubair? Thank you.
Yeah,
We have Zubair moving the motion.
that's correct. Zubair Wada, County of San Diego. Although my motion was really for, since I am a member of Santec, but that's okay. So, but Santec move to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Zubair. Do we have a second?
Sam Hassanen, City Vista, second the motion.
Thank you, Sam. Back to you, Tim.
Thank you. So we're going to start with Caltrans for Santec. Do anyone from Caltrans? City of Carlsbad.
Hussein Najida, City of Carlsbad, abstain.
Thank you. City of Chula Vista. City of Coronado.
Jim Newton, approve.
Thank you. City of Del Mar. City of El Cajon.
Mario Sanchez, I approve.
Thank you. City of Encinitas. City of Escondido.
Ed Alberto, abstain.
Thank you. City of Imperial Beach. City of La Mesa.
Phil Kern, City of La Mesa, Sandtech alternate, approve.
Thank you. City of Lemon Grove. City of National City. City of Oceanside.
Tila Cotter, City of Oceanside, approve.
Thank you. City of Poway.
Henry Trang, City of Poway, approve.
Thank you. City of San Diego.
Maureen Gardner, City of San Diego, alternate, approve.
Thank you. City of San Marcos. City of Santee.
Minji approve.
Thank you. City of Solana Beach.
Jim Greenstein, City of Solana Beach, I approve.
Thank you. City of Vista.
Sam Hassanen, approve.
Thank you. County of San Diego.
Zubir Wada, County of San Diego, approve.
Thank you. NCTD. And finally, MTS. Okay, and with that, the Sandtech meeting minutes for the November meeting have been approved. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Now move on to item number 4. It's the Regional Transportation Improvement Program update. That will be presented by Sandtech staff, Richard Radcliffe. Go ahead, please.
Hi, thank you, Chair. Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. So good morning, CTAC and Sandtech members. I'm here today to let you know that it is time once again to update the Regional Transportation Improvement Program, or RTIP. As most of you are aware, the RTIP is a 5-year, $17 billion program of projects that implements the projects in the Sandag Regional Plan. As required by state and federal law, the RTIP must be updated every 2 years in an adoption process that takes approximately 8 to 9 months to complete. We plan to start this process in January 2022. This RTIP will be the 2023 RTIP, and once it's federally approved, it will replace the existing 2021 RTIP. The draft adoption schedule for the 2023 RTIP has been included with today's agenda, but I just want to call out some key dates that are relevant to this group. On January 20th, 2022, a memo containing all relevant information will be sent out to the member agencies. We have a tentative date of January 27th for our 2023 RTIP workshop, but please note that this date is subject to change. For those who don't know, we hold a workshop every time we update the RTIP, but this year we will not be hosting it in person, it will be on Zoom. A save the date memo will be sent out to everyone today or tomorrow, which will provide you with a bit of extra notice since we won't actually send out a formal adoption notification until mid-January. On March 18th, all proposed projects will be due in Project Track. And then on July 1st of 2022, signed resolutions will be due, and these will need to be uploaded to Project Track by this date. On September 23rd of 2022, the Sandag board is expected to adopt the 2023 RTIP and its air quality analysis. And then by December 16th, 2022, the 2023 RTIP is expected to be federally approved. And at that time, the 2023 will replace the 21 RTIP, and the 21 RTIP will no longer be valid. We will keep you posted as we begin the process. And so feel free to get in touch with myself or with Sue if you have any questions on the RTIP or the adoption process. Thanks for giving me some of your time this morning, and I now will hand it over to Sue, who would like to give you an overview of policy considerations when preparing your program of projects.
Thank you, Richard, and good morning, everybody. Yeah, as Richard said, just wanted to discuss some of the shift that's happening in the region and how that might impact the projects that you choose to submit for the 2023 RTIP. So with the adoption of the new regional plan, SANDAG is evaluating changes to the Transnet ordinance to align the ordinance with the new direction of the regional plan. And so as was discussed at the last CTEC meeting, some of the changes that we anticipate proposing are a focus on including digital communications infrastructure, an emphasis on performance monitoring and reporting, and on social equity. As local agencies begin to develop their program of projects for the 2023 RTIP, we encourage selecting projects that support the priorities set forth in the regional plan, including projects that relieve traffic congestion, projects that improve safety, and projects that enhance multimodal mobility. Although we will be proposing the elimination of the 70-30 split, the current policy is in place until the ordinance amendments are approved. Going forward, Transnet projects will be expected to have a fix-it-first emphasis that prioritize operational and safety improvements. Agencies should also look at their selection of projects through a social equity lens to ensure that investments and projects benefits fall equitably to disadvantaged communities. As ordinance amendments are adopted, board policies will be developed to implement the concepts defined and aid cities in selecting projects that meet the expected criteria. SANDAG will consider options for phasing these policies in through RTIP amendments through the 2023 RTIP cycle. Local agencies can refer to Appendix B of the 2021 Regional Plan on SanDiegoForward.com for the implementation strategies and policies, which will guide future project selection and will influence the SANDAG board policies for the use of Transnet funds. So just happy to take any questions.
Hey, Sue, this is Bill Morgan with County of San Diego. I'm
Hi,
curious.
Bill.
Hi, I'm curious. Obviously, you're updating the ordinance right now, and that's going to inform the projects we select that we have to submit to you by March. And so the timeline doesn't seem to be conducive to us actually pivoting in any way.
No, we agreed. It's unfortunate. We're trying to move as fast as we can, but it just, the RTIP won't wait. So that's why I kind of saying, we kind of have to stick with what we've got, but we want you to consider options. You have a lot of projects, not all of them that you put Transnet on, right? So you can consider which might fit the criteria. But we do need to still be cognizant of that 70-30 split until we are able to eliminate it. I'm sorry, I know that doesn't help, but you're right. We won't make a lot of changes.
And is there a timeline on when we will see the updated forecasts?
They always plan to take the Transnet or forecast to the board in February, so we hope to have a draft of that in time for the workshop.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, no hand raised. So with that, we'll conclude this item. Thank you, Sue and Richard, for the presentation. I'll turn that to Mo. Thank you.
Thank you, Minji, and thank you, Sue and Richard. Appreciate the update. We are up on item number 5, and I think we are already on time. So thank you, everyone. We have SANDAG member Grace Mino, who's going to provide us an update for transportation performance management. Grace, please.
Good morning, CTEC and SANTEC members. My name is Grace Mino. I'm a senior research analyst here at SANDAG, and I'm here to discuss with you the project called Transportation Performance Management Framework. So just a quick overview of what my presentation is going to go over today. We're just going to give a quick background as to why we conducted this study. Then we're going to talk about why transportation performance management, and from here on out, I'm going to call it TPM just because it's a lot to say. We're going to talk about the goals, study methodology, the overall framework, the implementation recommendations that was given to us by the consultant, which was Kimley Horn, And then we'll just give a quick update on where SANDAG staff is right now on the progress that we've made from the recommendations. And so just a quick reminder that the Transnet Extension Ordinance mandates an independent performance audit of the efficiency and effectiveness of expenditures every 3 years. We want to ensure that we're being good stewards of taxpayer money. And in the 2018 triennial audit recommendations, there was a total list of 40 recommendations. And of that list, 28 were based on performance. And so this is the report, and the audit was conducted by Schoberg and Evanshank. And we actually had also just completed, they had also just completed the 2021 triennial audit recommendations as well. But TPM is in response to the 2018 audit recommendations. And so in the overall report, the recommendation number 5 was had said to establish a performance framework. And so they wanted us to set performance targets, capture that outcome data, be able to conduct more robust cause and effect analysis. And then we wanted to align the reports with Transnet goals, consider additional resources versus what is just being reported to us, examine third-party data, and then improve existing tools. And so why TPM? So the need for performance management, we want to link project benefits, we want to coordinate reporting, because reporting is conducted all across the agency for a variety of different reasons, whether it be for the feds, for the state, for Transnet as well. There was a strong need for accountability. And again, we want to be really good stewards of taxpayer money, enhance transparency to ensure that we want to show what we're spending the money on and the benefits of it and why we're funding projects that help the region. And then we also want to improve funding opportunities for people who are applying for Transnet funds. And so the overall TPM goals were to address, again, the audit recommendations, but we also want to support SANDAG interest in improving and monitoring RTP and SCS, like the reduction of BMT and GHG. As you all know, you've heard from our regional plan, and also just overall, we're trying to strengthen being a data-driven organization. We're striving to become a technology-forward organization, both internally and externally, and we wanted to demonstrate transparency and clarity. And this is being moved by a ton of different efforts across the agency. We're trying to have we're going to try to have an open data portal. We're working on a bunch of different efforts that just strive to incorporate technology and how that can just make us a more agile and efficient agency. And so Kimley Horn was a selected consultant after doing an RFP for TPM, and it was an 8-month study, and they conducted a large inventory of our existing performance activities that are happening across the agency. They conducted 18 OWP owner interviews, and our OWP is our overall work performance program. And so they conducted interviews with staff across the agency. They surveyed 12 local stakeholders, and they also met with 4 peer agencies to see how SANDAG stacked against the other MPOs. And so through this massive study, and from the interviews, from the surveys, from just researching our organization and how we conduct our reporting, they found that there was just more drivers than just the Transnet audit. We also had our external mandates with the state and the feds. We also wanted to align a lot of our reporting with the regional transportation plan. And so these drivers is what established the SANDAG TPM framework. And so with this framework, we're going to be able to just be better with our work activities. So the monitoring would inform our planning, which also drives our programming and our project delivery. But the monitoring also just gives us better data on what the money is being spent on, but also just how we're doing overall as a region, and just to be able to show that to our constituents and to our policy and decision makers. And so overall, the TPM recommendations from the Kimley Horn report was to update reporting requirements. These are just a few that are being highlighted: congestion and mobility on arterial roads, safety and trends reporting for bike, pedestrian, and car, just to improve our pavement reporting, and then consider our vehicle miles traveled, because I think there's across the MPOs, there's different ways to report VMT. There's modeling VMT. Caltrans has their own way of defining VMT. And so just having a standard methodology that we can align and better report the VMT in our region. And so where SANDAG staff is today for progress on the TPM recommendations, staff have been meeting internally like on from a monthly basis to a weekly basis, depending on the topic. Modeling and research program staff have been working together on a pilot project to evaluate the big data vendors to see which big data can help us show what's happening in our region. And so I know our modeling staff will also be releasing requests for offers to see which big data vendors would apply for it, but we're also conducting a pilot project internally with ones that we have existing contracts with, comparing it to Caltrans PEMS data. And then we've also met with California Highway Patrol. We just had questions on the nuances of the SWITRS data, the statewide integrated traffic record system. And we just wanted to get a better understanding. We've been collecting SWITRS data for the last 15 years. And so we just wanted to meet with them and get a better understanding of the reporting that's being done there and what we can get for our region. Met with California Air Resource Board, and we're just anticipating the release of their methodology of measuring VMT next year to ensure consistency. We want to ensure that we align our methodology with theirs and to make sure that we're reporting it correctly. And so we're also doing our due diligence by meeting with all of our working groups and our stakeholders. Ariana had presented to you last time on the transit ordinance recommendations and changes and recommendations. And so Sue had also mentioned it in the previous PowerPoint. And so we're just wanting to make sure that we're letting everyone know what we're working on and what we're doing to ensure transparency and reporting. And that's my presentation. Does anyone have any questions?
Hey, Chair, can I just add to what Grace spoke? This is Alex Estrella, if I may.
Please, Alex, go for it.
And obviously, Grace just provided kind of the details and the guts of the TPM effort. But I just want to bring back the CTAC and SANTAC sort of back to sort of the history or the context here as well. As you may recall, this whole concept of reporting components and audit report recommendation goes back to, I think, going back to maybe even 2013, where at that time, all these recommendations were being proposed by the auditor. And in fact, some of the team members here were involved in kind of trying to address all of these requirements or reporting requirements. And if, in fact, one of the outcome of the annual local streets and road program report that we do and collect data from you was sort of an outcome out of that. But through that process, we try to address, okay, can we collect mobility data? And then we went through an extensive exercise on understanding your payment sort of reporting mechanisms and mobility data. And at that time, we just made the recommendation because there's various systems and it requires a lot of effort on your part that we just agree that we would report kind of a narrative on the local streets and road program. But also along the lines, we also agreed that, hey, listen, there's all these recommendations coming. So, and we sort of held back in trying to fix it ourselves because I think at that time, staff recognized that these requirements, if we implement something comprehensive, it has to be considered comprehensive because there's a lot of sort of data collection efforts across the agency. And to make that most efficient, make sure that if we are asking for all of you to report on something that it's across the agency, because just collecting data on the local streets and road program transit, it's just one piece of the probably many requests that you get from other SANDAG efforts. And that's why, with Grace and the consultant, they kind of put all those elements and those key drivers into this report. But that's really the context here. So I think this kind of summarizes it and they package something to ITALK. And right now, SANDAG is internally trying to kind of move forward those recommendations. So you'll be hearing more about the specific components or recommendations that will be coming out of the local streets and road program, re-examining how we want to report on payment, re-examining some mobility indicators, and then safety. And so there's more discussion to happen that's going to take place with your guidance, but also with staff's leadership at this point. And that's really the high level context here that I wanted to share, recognizing that a lot of the initial address siloed without looking at what else SANDAG was doing with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you, Grace. Are there any questions for Alex and or Grace?
I have a question, Minji.
Go ahead, Julie.
Yes. So thanks so much for the report. I'm excited about the opportunity to report the benefits of the projects that we're doing, because I think they're definitely underreported. I'm interested, though, if any of SANDAG's efforts might be surrounding being able to look at other modes and seeing the benefits of, for example, transit projects or bike and ped projects, and being able to sort of measure those benefits and compare them across the modes.
We are looking at bike and ped and other modes, but I don't think we're going to be comparing them across. I think we're just trying to collect the data and ensure that we're reporting it in a standardized fashion.
And Julie, that's a great point and question. There's a difference between monitoring and reporting and actually, I would say, measuring and assessing, right? And that's the point that you're kind of raising, Julie. And so one of the things that we discuss and through our internal processes, we're working with the consultant, is there's the modeling sort of performance measures and the projections and determine that. I think we're still trying to grab our arms around what this monitoring reporting would look like. But I think the easy lift is understanding what we could collect and report on, and then determine how do we want to use that data. And I would just look at, maybe consider as a phased approach, Julie, because I guess there's different tools, right? If you start looking at that larger comparing and analysis and assessment, it requires different tools and different resources.
Okay, I understand. I think that, ideally, it would be great as a region to be able to get to a point to where we're evaluating projects and determining which projects are early action projects based on the fact that they provide the biggest benefit to the region, right? And so being able to project those benefits or evaluate those benefits in advance of selecting projects. And then after the fact, being able to report on, hey, did we accomplish our goal here? Did we get out of this project what we expected? I think as a region, it would be great to be able to get there.
No, I agree with you, Julie. And it's that cause and effect recommendation, right? That the auditors sort of the cause, are we addressing congestion, but how do we, we have to provide structure how we would do that, and then the tools. But I agree with you, Julie. I think that's sort of the end goal at some point. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. I see, Zubair, you have your hands up. Do you have any questions for us?
Yes, I do. I think this, my question probably more to SANDAG. I don't know if it's really just to Grace, and probably Alex may come in. Based on even the presentation before, it seems really we want the region to move toward improvement that are more safety improvement, ATP improvement, and probably more technology-oriented improvements. I'm going to ask my question more into the safety side of it, because that's probably what I do most of the time. I think last time I brought it out, I see the region establishing, just like the traffic model, is a safety model, where when the county with another agency compete on a project on a safety perspective, it is in the model, and the model will determine the improvement appropriate for the roadway that needs to be done there, because the model will have that, the mitigations. So I think it's probably maybe time we start really deeply thinking about that. If we want to get out of the level of service and the capacity, just improving the roadway to add lanes. Now we're really, what is the minimum we can improve for a safe roadway to accommodate the ATP and also, the transit and all that stuff, So what do you think about that concept? Is SANDAG thinking, whatever it is, for a safety modeling of our region?
With the model, well, to our activity, are you talking about our activity-based model? Just to be clear.
No, I am talking about a new model that deals with safety. So you say, I'm going to put sidewalk in this area. How does that improve safety for A, the local agency, and 2, for the region? Because you can put in something else that improves the region. And so that way you are predetermining the benefit of the safety improvement. And I'm talking just about the safety here. There is other element of it, but just the safety. Just like predicting the model, your model that predicts traffic volume and all that stuff. You have a model that predicts the level of safety on a roadway by adding improvement to it. So does that make sense, Alex?
Yeah, I think the concept you're referring to, I think, going back to my previous comments to Julie, I mean, these are great comments. And I think from a larger context here, we do have an emphasis in the adopted plan to kind of work toward a vision zero severe. Let's just start with that. So how we get there, the tools, how we start monitoring, measuring, or what procedures we put in place to get to that. That's what you're speaking to, but I think we're heading that direction. But now to speak to down to how we're going to do that and the procedures, we're not just there yet. But I think we're in support of making the case that if we're in fact moving, like you said, away from the traditional way of analyzing our roadway systems, and you reference LOS to multimodal, I think we're heading in the right direction. How we get there, I think there's still a lot of discussion that needs to happen. But from a regional perspective, there is a strong commitment to Vision Zero concept. I mean, I can't answer the details at this point. We just don't know the details. I mean, we could get down to the weeds on the models and the constraints of the existing models, but right. I think we're moving in that direction. I just can't give you an answer on how we're going to get there at this point.
Yeah, no, that's great. I just wanted to hear that at least it's a consideration on the table that we need to move there. We need to move that direction. Thank you so much, Alex. And thank you, Grace.
Thank you, Zubair. Are there any other questions regarding this item? Hearing none, Minji, back to you.
Thank you, Mo. Item number 6. This item, SANAC staff will provide an update on their efforts for soliciting for 5-year on-call service for the mobility technology support. So they will want to hear input from local agencies. This item will be presented by Cecily Taylor of SANAC. Go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me today, CTAC and SANTech members. I'm Cecily Taylor. I'm a senior regional planner at SANDAC and wanted to tell you about the mobility technology on-call that we are preparing to issue. So if your agencies don't use on-calls or you're not familiar, a quick overview that this is basically a competitive request for qualifications to identify the consultants and vendors that can provide technical consulting services on an as-needed basis. And we separate different on-calls based on distinct fields so that the qualifications are appropriate for the needs. So for example, we have an architecture and engineering on-call, an on-call for planning services, one for marketing and communications, legal services, And the most relevant to today is the Intelligent Transportation Systems, or ITS, on-call. And generally, these on-calls last about 5 years, and projects, as needs arise, as funding is identified for particular projects, we can carry out many competitions, many solicitations that are only the firms on the on-call are eligible to go after. And our ITS on-call is nearing the end of its schedule. It's going to be expiring this coming June. So we're looking to issue a new on-call for these ITS services, or more broadly, we're calling it mobility technology to capture some emerging technologies as well. So this will provide us with consultants who can help with strategic planning for transportation technology, can help with systems engineering, and any other needs related to technology as we work to implement the 5 big moves. So I've been working with Alex and Tim over the last several weeks to interview SANDAG staff and identify anticipated needs internally. And I've provided a list of services in the staff report. I won't go through all of it, but a few that I think are most relevant to this group would be services related to planning for mobility hubs and corridors. And that's, as it relates to technology at mobility hubs and along corridors. Strategic planning and asset management for example, vehicle charging infrastructure or digital communications, and curb management systems, planning for curb management, where we would want to implement that technology, and then designing the system itself. Now we don't know the exact mechanism yet, but we expect that this on-call will be available to you as our local jurisdictions. And so wanted to bring this to you today to hear from you what other needs you might envision in the next 5 years or so, where you would want to use a consultant for technology planning or design. So just before I open it up to discussion, I'll say that if you think of something after today's meeting, please feel free to reach out to myself, to Alex, to Tim, and you can give us your input. We just ask that you try and get it to us by the end of the year, or very early January following the holidays, if possible. And then we'll be gathering the solicitation and issuing that request for proposals, aiming for spring. So that's all I have today, and would just love to hear from you all what services you have or needs you have.
See your hand raised by Tom. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, good morning all, and happy holidays. And thank you for that presentation. I think with such a big transformative regional plan that was adopted, it would be really good to get as much baseline data on our different modes of travel. So just thinking about technological assistance in that role, on how we can get counts. Specifically, a lot of us cities in Carlsbad, we do a lot of vehicular traffic counts due to we have a growth management plan. So we've got a pretty good data set on that. We're also now we're a multimodal in our general plan mobility element. We've converted to multimodal monitoring, so we're starting to do more counts for bicycles and peds. But assistance in that realm would be really helpful. Like SANDAG, I know used to do a lot of regional counts on major corridors, but specifically regarding like bike counts and ped counts on complete corridors, that would be very helpful. And to get it early, because now we're just starting to talk about the early adoption projects that we can bring forward. And we're planning to bring a lot of movement in Carlsbad on the multimodal level. So that would be some initial input. And then also just in regards to technological assistance in monitoring traffic movement through roundabouts. That's an intersection control that's going to be moving forward, hopefully at a greater speed in our region. And there's an article posted in ITE about how they're tracking movements and estimating capacity issues on multi-lane roundabouts. So that's an area where I think hopefully you can include some wording in your RFPs. So that's it for now, but happy holidays to all.
This is Alex. Thanks, Tom. This is great insight, because one of the things that we know that it's sort of evolving in the technology side is that advanced sensing technology that we've heard. So we're looking into that. That'll give us, the ability to, go beyond the traditional way of counting, modes, right? But that's great. And also would like to make sure that you've obviously, all of you have probably some insight into what you expect in your sort of future CIPs. So so put that context in mind as well. So keep in mind that if we were to move forward with this, the sort of these two examples that Tom provided, that's great, but also think of possible activities or initiatives within your local agency that you might anticipate within the next 2 years. I know it's kind of forward thinking, but at the same time, we'll have an opportunity then to say, hey, is there something that we could help you carry that out as well? Obviously, a lot of these initiatives we'll be carrying out ourselves, but use this also as a resource for all of you.
Okay, I see 2 hands raised. I have Julie and followed by Sam.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm going to just go back to my previous comments that I just made. I would love it if there was a way for us to rank and evaluate the projects that we're proposing in our regional plan, so that we're able to quantify the benefits in comparison to the costs. I think that would be something that would allow us as a region to sort of come together around a plan that we all feel confident from a transportation level that we're making the smartest choices. So that would be one area. And then the second area is, I don't know what kind of assistance is available out there with respect to implementing sort of neighborhood electric vehicle type programs, but I definitely think that there is an opportunity to look for some sort of partnership amongst the agencies and some help from SANDAG in deploying NEVs in downtown areas or areas that potentially could support them. Thank you.
Okay, Sam.
Yes, hello. I kind of wanted a clarification. I may have missed it for this RFP or this contract. Is it just for data collection, or is ITS part of it? I saw in the agenda. Yeah.
Yes, ITS is definitely part of it. And so in what I would think is related to data collection, this on-call would cover maybe designing and deploying technologies that can do data collection. It wouldn't be for going out to get traffic counts, but installing some kind of technology. But it is broad for all mobility technology needs.
So I mean, would it extend it to like traffic signal communications?
Absolutely.
Like that? Oh, so
Absolutely.
This is very broad then. Okay. At this point, you're looking for input of what I guess infrastructure or improvements or data collection that we need.
Yes, the types of technology services, consultant support that you might need for planning or design related to mobility technology. And I've provided a list of what we heard from internal staff at SANDAG, but because we want you to have access to this on-call as well, if there's anything that we haven't captured, that's what we're hoping to hear from you.
And the reason why I ask is because I think data collection versus ITS planning and design are completely different things. We have an on-call contract, for example, for data collection, and that's the firm that just does data collection. That's all they do, right. Nothing engineering or planning. So I think that those are kind of two separate things. So I'm not sure if how that's kind of being combined into one contract.
Sure, maybe it would help. For example, this contract would not, or this on-call would not be meant to go out and collect pedestrian counts or bike counts. This on-call could be used though to implement a smart signal, smart intersection that could, because of the cameras that are part of that smart intersection, those are able to collect counts on an ongoing basis. So that's one example, or maybe with the curb management, maybe that curb management technology is able to monitor and collect data about the curb use. So this would be meant to design and plan for those technologies, not going out and getting a data collection at a particular location. I hope that helps.
Yeah, it's just really more like performance monitoring on the long term kind of. It's not just to get a 2-hour turn and moving count to do a stop sign evaluation. So I see what you're saying. Yeah, it's like maybe Bluetooth devices would be an example, which we've installed not too long ago. So I think this is more like infrastructure to really gather kind of performance measures more than anything, to kind of look at a system overview rather than spot locations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Cecily, sorry.
Did I hear somebody?
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to, I jumped in right as Julie was talking about like neighborhood electric vehicle shuttle services and support with that. And I wanted to make you aware, this is Antoinette, by the way, make you aware that we have a separate bench that we're establishing for flexible fleet service providers, including a category around neighborhood electric vehicle shuttles. And we worked with all of you, your staff and your agencies to make sure that the contracting provisions would allow you to be able to use that bench. So you don't have to go out and do your own procurement for those services, and we have consistency across the region. So that's not addressed under this bench, but there's a separate bench. We're actually going to our board of directors this Friday to get thumbs up to proceed with that procurement. So I would imagine it will hit the street probably the second week of January, and hopefully we'll have those vendors on board, it's springtime.
Thanks, Antoinette.
Thanks. Tom.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Antoinette, for sharing that information. I was going to share that with Julie as well. So first off, I fully support Julie's suggestions regarding the prioritization and making sure we're receiving the greatest benefits for the taxpayer funds being spent. And on that note, we're really excited. Antoinette, hopefully you've read our comments regarding the regional plan. And we're on board with like 90% of it. And we had comments regarding, just to Julie's point, the concern about cost to benefit ratios or benefits received from fixed rail improvements, because there's big challenges, as we know, to implement fixed rail on the state. We can see what happened with the high-speed rail effort to date. So with that, we're super supportive and super excited about flexible fleets and complete corridors. And so one thing for the this effort and for the I guess associated effort you just mentioned, Antoinette, is if we could look at some of the major objectives on how we can move people in the most efficient and safe manner. That's one of our key objectives. And the second is to lower greenhouse gases. So what would be helpful is to evaluate also, in addition to the efficiency of how we're doing with moving people at timely manners, would be how we're actually moving them in relation to reduction in greenhouse gases or gases off-gassing. And so we could do possibly investigate comparisons of like reductions in greenhouse gases with the different types of mode travel, whether it's through flexible fleets or fixed rail. And just wanted to share with the group, we're seeing a lot of potential in flexible fleets and actually moving a lot of people safely and efficiently along our road systems in addition to fixed rail. And so what I'm seeing is, like, just as an example, on the I-5 corridor, we have an extra managed lane that could be built under the EIR. And if that managed lane was dedicated to public transit first, and then possibly electric vehicles only, but not only that, autonomous electric vehicles, and then you could also reward multi-passenger type of travel, that would be terrific. And I think that would move a huge percentage of the commuters in a really efficient manner. And Sandag team, if I could just share my screen, just showing just a recent article that was published regarding a new mobility or a new vehicle, personal vehicle that is being produced. And I know there's others in the region, so by no means am I endorsing this product, but it just shows what's being developed at a lightning speed to help with this issue. So I'm super excited about it and am no way endorsing this product, but let me see if I can find the screen, which I pulled it up on. Oh, shoot.
Tim, he should be able to share, right?
Yeah, I got it here. I'm just trying to find the right window because, oh, here it is. Okay, thanks. Sorry for the delay here. So this is a startup and it's in the Insider. I can send, maybe I'll post it in the chat, but here's an example of a vehicle coming online, and I'm not going to read it all, but basically it's kind of an in-between vehicle. It's not a class 3 that's approved for freeway travel, but it is coming online, and it's a solo vehicle, and it can travel 80 miles per hour coming online. They say within the next year, who knows, you know, it's very challenging to get a vehicle launched, but you know, a single passenger vehicle is like I don't know, Sandag's probably got the numbers, but over 80% of the commuters would like to travel in single driver vehicles, which of course that's what we're trying to avoid. But this is very efficient, very cost effective, and it would really help with the efforts to reduce greenhouse gases. So just wanted to share that with the group, and just say if we could do anything with this contract to evaluate greenhouse gases in relation to moving the different modes of travel, that would be greatly appreciated. And with that, I'll stop sharing my screen.
I don't see any hands raised. However, I do see a question in the chat plane. Here's my question for Sandex staff. I know in a typical setting when we have an in-person meeting, we have a speaker had to submit a speaker slip before they can speak. So this is the first time I see this situation. How do we handle this? I'm not sure how do we address this issue? Shall we answer this question now, or shall we leave this to the time when for public comments? I think we have to have that. We don't have that anymore for this meeting.
If we have any public comments, the idea is that they would raise their hand, and we made that announcement up front, and we'd try to capture that. And if there's a chat, we should call it out, Minji. I missed it. I don't see. I'm trying to figure out the chat.
Yeah, the question is about streetlight data and other sources of
yeah.
Bluetooth Wi-Fi data from a vendor. So another procurement that we have underway. So the ITS bench, or what used to be ITS bench, is now Mobility Technology bench, is just one of several benches that we have across the agency. So we have another one for planning work. Pretty soon we'll be doing another one called Sustainable Communities bench, and that will have urban design experts, housing expert consultants, and maybe some of the work too, Tom, you're talking about evaluating modes and VMT and GHG reduction would be a good fit under that. But Grace is here, and I just saw her turn her camera on, which is great. And she has another procurement for big data sets underway. So they're evaluating different big data sources, and she can give you an update on that one.
Yeah, so what Streetlight is one of the vendors that we are evaluating. We're evaluating Streetlight, Replica, and INRIX right now for just different reporting mechanisms that we need across the agency. Like planners need information, the modelers need information. We have, again, we report to the state, the Fed, and also to other reporting agencies. And so we're just trying to evaluate which vendors can give us the best data for what we all need to report. But yes, Streetlight is one of the, we actually have a 1-year contract with Streetlight that we're in right now. And we're, again, evaluating to see which vendor would give us the best data for all the different efforts that we have across the agency. And we're not just sticking with one. I think the intent for the RFO that Data Solutions is going to be releasing is that we have a bench of vendors, so that if for whatever big data vendor we need, whether it be for modeling, whether it be for our econ team, or whether it be for our planning team, that we can all select from the ones that we all need to that we need for our projects and for reporting.
Great, thank you. I see a hand raised by Zubir.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you. Grace, I guess being probably more of a dinosaur traffic engineer, how do we get how do we know the integrity of these big data? How do you can make me confident that yes, it is good. Yes, it is, valuable and all that.
100%. And that's why we're doing the pilot project in-house. We're comparing it to PEMs, but we're also comparing it across each other. So we're using all our sources that we have, and we want to ensure that whatever we select is reliable, but that if there are nuances to the data, that we can note that. Like I know, like with, everyone talks about big data and cell phone based data and how it might not be 100% of the region, that it can only be a third or 2/3. And so whatever vendor that we do select, we want to ensure that one, it is comparable to the existing sources that we're using, but also that we can capture the nuances to explain what might be some of the setbacks of using it. I mean, nothing's 100% perfect, right? But we want to ensure that when we're being transparent about what we're using, and also give everybody the information that is needed to make the decisions on what the drawbacks might be.
And Sabir, through that process too, like Grace mentioned earlier, there's different functionalities. Remember, for planning data, they might have pretty good quality planning related data statistics versus operational data. And that's part of some of the assessment, right? Because to understand what's happening on a lane by lane for operational purposes, there's obviously greater, analysis that needs to be done. We might not be using it for signal timing operations, but we could definitely use it for planning related post analysis data.
Right.
So just breaking that down in more detail.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no more hand raised, that concludes this item. Thank you, Grace, Antoinette, and Cecily for your presentation.
Thank you, everyone. Also wanted to mention that we are actually monitoring the chat section. I've been reading some of that interesting back and forth and dialogue. Thank you, Tom, for sharing the link for us. And I think Minji handled it very well. I think the chat questions or comments as it relates to the item, we try to pick it up as we have SANDAG experts available to either address or provide feedback. So it's great that you guys are putting in your comments on the chat. My recommendation is, if you can, either at the beginning of your chat or somewhere in the body, mention that you're asking or commenting on the item. That way we would know. I kind of suspected the street light was related to this item, but I think Minji picked up on it very well. With that, I'd like to introduce item number 7, which is 2020 State Implementation Plan for Ozone. SANDAG staff member Sam Stanford is going to make the presentation. Sam, you have the floor.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. So item number 7 is on the 2020 State Implementation Plan, and this item relates to updates to air quality conformity and also corresponding updates to project programming, particularly capacity increasing projects in the Regional Transportation Improvement Program, the RTIP. So I'll be co-presenting with Sue Alpert from the programming team, and I'm from the long range planning team on this item. I'll first cover the air quality background and context, and then Sue will go over more of the programming updates and how this is functioning within Project Track and the RTIP. So the 2020 State Implementation Plan, this is a required document. The San Diego region is in non-conformity for ozone standards for our region. And so this document is required. It's developed by the Air Pollution Control District. So there's air pollution control districts in every major metro area that develop these plans, and then they roll up to the state, and there's an entire state implementation plan, or SIP. Approval for these plans is required by both California Air Resources Board and also the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. CARB, or California Air Resources Board, has already done their review and passed it on to EPA for their review and approval, and that's who it's with currently. The plan provides for essentially how the region is going to achieve air quality standards on an incremental basis. So going forward, how are we going to eventually get out of this non-attainment status for air quality by reducing the amount of emissions over time. The 2020 SIP also recommended that the region change its status, and there's different levels or graduations of non-attainment, and the region was moved from moderate to severe non-attainment. So now it's severe non-attainment for both the two standards, the 2008 ozone standard and the 2015 ozone standards are the names of them. That adjustment was approved by US EPA in a separate process. So that is on the books now, and that is having the update requirements for programming of projects. So on this slide, you kind of see a screenshot there towards the bottom of one section of project track when you go into program a project or update a project in the RTIP. And the part I want to draw your attention to is towards the far right there is the open to traffic date. That particular bit of information for each capacity increasing project is critical to this process of conformity. Essentially, the way it works is we take that date along with the information about the project, adding an auxiliary lane or whatever the project is itself, is then put into the activity-based model, run through a modeling series with the assumption of that open traffic date, and then we can essentially, from that process, get the amount of emissions that are going to be produced or we anticipate being produced at different time periods. Using that information, that's how we're able to demonstrate to Federal Highway Administration and Federal Transit Administration, and then also US EPA, that our plan, our programs, all the products that we produce do not create new air quality violations, they do not worsen existing air quality violations, and they do not delay our attainment of in this case, ozone. So key pieces of this that have always been in place is that dates and the open to traffic cannot be adjusted across conformity periods. In the past, we had very long, very large conformity periods. However, with these updates, those are shrinking or getting much smaller. And so this item is really to make the managers aware of these changes as they go through and start updating these, especially with the 23 RTIP process kicking off. So on the this slide has the conformity periods that we were functioning under for the last several years. On the left-hand side, the prior. So we had 2023, and then it jumped to 2030, 40, and 50 in general 10-year periods. Towards the right-hand side, we have the new conformity periods, 23, 26, 29, 32. So it's pretty much every 3 years until we get much further out in the years that we're probably not adding projects for in the RTIP. But these are the years we want to make sure that this group and also staff that add projects into RTIP are aware of these changes, and that there's now this 3-year period, and we need to keep projects within those, with the exception of when we are having a RTIP amendment with a conformity analysis, then projects can move. But at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Sue, who can walk us through kind of how this is going to be functioning and some examples of how this functions with the RTIP.
Thanks, Sam. Tim, if you can go to the next slide. Good, perfect. So yeah, Sam mentioned these dates are a lot tighter, and we can only update them crossing conformity periods during an air quality update to the RTIP. So that is generally the adoption that we do every 2 years, or occasionally we'll notify you that we are doing an air quality conformity amendment like we did for the regional plan. But that doesn't happen as frequently. So, so just to kind of illustrate why we're bringing this to you and why we're concerned and just calling your attention to it, is because of these shorter conformity periods. It's easy to forget that when you're updating your project schedules and just maybe not paying attention so closely to something like air quality conformity periods. So in this example, the open to traffic date for this project is February 2023. That falls within the 21 to 23 conformity period. And it means that the project, the date to open the traffic could not be changed to any date after 12/31/2023 without an air quality update. So this is particularly important with the 2023 RTIP update because it is an air quality RTIP, and that is the first year of the RTIP is the end of the conformity period. So 2020, the new RTIP will be 2023 to 2027, 2023 being the end of a conformity period. So just really need to be very aware of these dates when you're programming into this new RTIP. Next slide, Tim. Okay, so in this example, you can see that the open to traffic date falls right at the beginning of a new conformity period, the 24 to 26 conformity period. This situation provides 3 years of flexibility if schedules should slip. So if there's any concern about meeting a date, we recommend that you give yourselves this type of flexibility when programming projects in the 23 RTIP. So instead of putting something in December of 2023, move it to January and give yourself some flexibility. Okay, one more example. Thanks, Tim. So this project's way out there in the last year of the new RTIP. The RTIP will go through 2027. We know it's hard to know what will happen this far out, but if money were to become available and this project were to be completed sooner, it still could not open until January 2027 with this date in this conformity period. However, there'll be several opportunities to adjust this date before then if the schedule were to accelerate. So really just calling your attention to this so you're aware. And we did, because this seems a little challenging, we made some changes to project track so that a project, if that we were to try to cross conformity periods while programming the project in a non-air quality amendment, you will get an error that'll not allow you to submit the project. So that might help call your attention to it and remind you. And then if there's any questions, you guys can reach out to us. So, okay, that's it. So are there any questions about that, how that's applied? Cool. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Sue, and thank you, Sam. I appreciate the presentation. Back to you, Minji.
Thank you, Mo. So item number 8. This one, SANDAG staff will provide an update on the advancement of SANDAG working groups restructuring. You probably all know that this is an effort almost for the last 2 years. I think we finally come to some more concrete suggestions at this point. So please provide your comments. And this will be provided by Antoinette Meyer of SANDAG. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. And Tim, if you don't mind advancing slides for me, that would be great. So you're right, for a little over a year now, we've been working with all of you on a proposal for restructuring SANDAG working groups. And you've been really great in providing input all along the way. So we've incorporated that feedback into the recommendations that I'm going to walk you through today. But first, just a few quick reminders on why we're having these conversations to begin with. So working group restructuring is not specific to SANTAC and CTAC. This is occurring across the agency. It was a recommendation that came out of an organizational effectiveness plan that we had developed for SANDAG back in 2019. And it's something that our board leadership asked us to look at. And there's a number of reasons why this is needed. I think we've discussed all of those reasons in great detail at previous meetings, so I'm not going to go through them all today. But in a nutshell, we had way too many working groups, almost 30. Most of them had outdated charters. There was dwindling participation, lack of meaningful agenda items and engagement, a lot of redundancy between the groups, and then just inconsistencies in general across the agency and how groups were formed and how they function, how they operated. So next slide, please. So I think one of the most important improvements that we're proposing is a standard structure and nomenclature for all committees, and it's portrayed here on this slide. So at the top is the SANDAG Board of Directors who lead the agency. We're all responsible to the Board of Directors. Occasionally, the board forms topical subcommittees, and there are 3 that are active currently: airports, a newly formed housing subcommittee, and a litter abatement subcommittee. And the membership on those subcommittees are a handful of board members who either volunteer or are nominated to participate. Then directly reporting to the board are the policy advisory committees. So policy advisory committees are also made up of elected officials. Most of them are board members, not all of them are. And we are not proposing to eliminate any of the policy advisory committees, but we are taking a fresh look at the responsibilities of the Transportation Committee and the Regional Planning Committee so that we can make their portfolios a little bit more distinct and reduce that redundancy between the two groups. Then we have some independent special groups like ITAC, the Independent Taxpayer Oversight Committee, and our Audit Committee, and they report directly to the board as well. Then reporting to PACs are working groups, and this is where most of the change is being proposed. So there'll be one working group per policy advisory committee, and to address that primary concern raised by this group when I came to you in October, the working groups will remain Brown Act groups that can vote on their recommendations to the policy advisory committee. Working groups will be chaired by a member of the PAC that they report to, and the chair will be a non-voting member. Then underneath those working groups are the technical task forces, and these are less formal. They're formed as needed to support either the development of a specific project or just for general regional coordination. So I know Santac had expressed interest in just having a forum for coordination amongst the traffic engineers. So this could be a technical task force. These task forces do not vote, but they do provide technical input for Santac staff and working group consideration. So next slide, please. So what does this look like for the Transportation Committee? Well, we introduced the Mobility Working Group to you back in October, and based on your feedback, like I mentioned, we will keep this a formal Brown Act group. It can take positions, it can make recommendations to the Transportation Committee on transportation projects, programs, and policies. We're proposing one voting member from each member agency, like CTAC today, and other organizations can be non-voting members. The working group, this is the new part, will be chaired by a member of the Transportation Committee who will be your liaison to the Transportation Committee and provide updates to the Transportation Committee on working group initiatives. The Transportation Committee and the board will appoint staff from each agency to serve as a voting member on the Mobility Working Group. The chair position will be a 2-year commitment, but each year the executive committee will evaluate the working groups as they've done in the past, but moving forward, part of that evaluation will be taking a look at your annual work plans, and the Mobility Working Group work plan for this coming year is included in your staff report along with the charter. Now, next slide, please. For the Regional Planning Committee, there will be a Sustainable Communities Working Group. So the structure is identical to the Mobility Working Group, but they will report into the Regional Planning Committee. And while the Mobility Working Group is really focused on transportation elements in the regional plan, this group will be focused on the sustainable community strategy. So housing, land use coordination, climate, environmental issues would be the area of focus for this committee. Next slide. So this is a much more formal structure. It's consistent. It provides a closer connection between the PACs and the working groups. It aligns with the regional plan, and it allows for less formal groups to form as needed. So I think we've addressed, all of the input and feedback that have come up in conversations with you and other working groups over the last couple of years. So I am the executive team member that's kind of responsible for this initiative. Alex Estrella and Keith Greer are the staff that are leading this, and we shared these recommendations with the executive team last week. They were quite happy with where we landed. So from here, we will be sharing this with all of the working groups like we're doing with you this month and next month, and then it would go to the executive committee in February. They asked us to come back to them. We let them know that we were doing this and that, by the end of the year, we would have a proposal. So they're expecting us to come back with those recommendations. We're going to do that in February. And then assuming this meets their expectations, we would begin the restructuring process in the spring. So with that, I want to open it up to questions. Looks like we have a question in the chat. Did you say the chair would be a member of the TC? Yes, the chair would be a non-voting member of the TC. Can you all hear me? I'm not hearing anyone.
Yes.
Okay.
Julie, go ahead, please.
Hi, yes, thank you, Antoinette. I really appreciate the revisions that you've made. I appreciate that you and Alex have listened to our comments and feedback. So I'm grateful for that. And thank you for all your work on this item. I had a quick question with respect to development of the work plan. I'm not sure I caught what that process looks like. Will we be sort of recommending a work plan to the board and then they would approve our work plan, or would we have control of that, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I think we'll work with you, staff will work with you to put together those annual work plans. We hadn't proposed that they would be adopted by the board of directors, just simply when we go to give the update. Every year, we always give an update on the status of working groups to the executive committee. That part of that update for their awareness would be your work plan. So we would be sharing that with them. And then I would imagine your TC liaison would probably be sharing that back with the transportation committee as well.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. I appreciate
that. But it would be a collaborative process, Julie. We would be developing those work plans with you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your work.
Okay, Zubir?
Yeah, thanks. Hi, Antoinette. Could you go to the Santec and tell us, I know you said it's a task force, it's a loose, but we will have the same meeting. What do you guys expect from us? Or we just meet as needed? You know, just go to the Santec specifically and tell us how your Sandec vision of the Santec as a task force.
So Zubir, the structure is that there's just one formal Brown Act working group reporting to the Transportation Committee. And then there's these technical task forces that can be formed as needed. I mentioned Santec because you all had asked that you have sort of a less formal, less frequent meetings to just be able to simply collaborate, share information, resources as traffic engineers for the city. So that is an example of a possible technical task force that could be formed. But Santec does, as it existed previously, will not exist in the future.
Okay, so your hand raised by Tom.
Zubir, you're muted. I saw you talking, but.
No, I said that's great. No, I just, and then is Sandec the one that will be organizing our meeting? Or this is, I'm just, you know, I know it doesn't exist probably formally, but it will still exist as a place to meet and talk informally. How does that work within your program or plan?
Yeah, so I have a technical task force that I coordinate right now for digital equity. So we have a digital divide task force and I coordinate those meetings. We meet kind of on an as needed basis, probably around every other month. So, you know, it could be structured similarly. There is no current proposal on the table though for Santec. I think that's a conversation that, you know, we need to have.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions?
I think Tom was
Yeah, I had a question. So yeah, thank you for all the information on the revisions. They sound terrific. And just to revisit the timing on this, it sounded like you're bringing it forward in the spring. Is that when we would start working on the work plan?
So the proposals to the executive committee would be in February, and then we would begin restructuring in the spring. So we had presented a work plan to you all earlier this year, and there is a work plan, I think that's attached to the staff report as well. We didn't get a whole lot of feedback on that work plan. Alex, did you want to?
Yeah, I mean, a great question, Tom. Yeah, we have in attachments to the agenda, we have the draft charter and the draft work plan, but feel free to review it and provide comments. Essentially, we're trying to line up a number of activities over the next year. So we could definitely bring that back as we start restructuring and revise the work plan. But it's in the attachment, Tom.
All right, thank you very much.
It's a very ambitious work plan, Tom. I think you're going to need a handful of technical task forces to get through it all.
All right, sounds good. We like to work on stuff. So.
Any other comments? Seeing none, maybe I'll just have a quick comment myself. First of all, I want to thank Sandex staff for working with us in the last more than a year for the restructuring. And I see there was a lot of inefficiency, with the previous structure. So I think this probably will help in that regard. So as a result of it, if you move forward as proposed, so the CTAC and the SANTAC we know today will cease to exist. So they will be replaced by this one single mobility working group. And earlier in the discussion, I've heard from some SANTAC members that who have expressed the interest at thinking that SANTAC may still continue to exist, but just not as part of the SANTAC structure. So if there is a desire for that, I can, I'll be happy to work with SANTAC members, because as you all recall, that SANTAC started as a non-member group of SANDAC, and then eventually became a part of the SANDAC structure. But it started as just a regional traffic engineers council. I know I remember 20 years ago, used to meet at the county office. So if there's such a desire, I think we can still consider that as an option to discuss issues that interest the traffic engineering field. So I just want to leave it out there. But thank you, Antoinette, for the presentation.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Antoinette. Thank you, Minji. I also have one comment, and I was going to offline talk to Alex before even I offer that, but subject to availability of timing, we may introduce an item on next month's agenda to discuss the work plan. I know we shared that with the group, but I'm sure most of us did not pay too much attention to it. And based on Tom's comment, I think it's worth our while to spend a few minutes on the work plan and perhaps make some adjustment before it was presented to the higher board. We'll discuss it internally with Alex and see if it's acceptable.
Yeah. Thanks, Mo. Yeah, absolutely. I think we'll probably have a standing item on sort of this restructuring process in the future meetings as we proceed with that. Absolutely.
Perfect. I'm glad you feel the same way. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate the validation. Okay, we're doing well in time. I think when Tim sent us the agenda yesterday, he also attached an update from Caltrans, but I think Rob is here. And Rob, you have the floor if you want to provide us an update on Caltrans agenda. We have a few minutes extra. There you are. I think you're on mute.
Thanks. I was trying to share my screen here. Let's see. Oh, the first thing I just put something in the chat as far as a new training that's coming up next month. I think it'll be before the next meeting. And so it's on the single audit reporting requirement. And so you can see that announcement there, so that if you or someone in your agency needs to have that training, that's going to be, I think, on what, January 20th or no. Anyway, but the main thing I wanted to note was, and we're still doing pretty well on the inactive invoices. That list was just updated on December 10th. I think there's one more city on that list now. But the main thing I wanted to highlight here is the Clean California Grant Program. Call for projects has been opened. There was another application workshop yesterday, and we at Local Assistance are learning as we go too. So we've been trying to attend those workshops so that we can provide any support or assistance needed to help put together an application. I believe there's going to be one more. They haven't scheduled it, but in mid-January, there'll be another one online. Plus, they'll post the recordings on the website. But so that was the flyer for yesterday. Also, in preparation for the forthcoming call for projects for active transportation, CTC has been doing a series of workshops. So you'll see a list there in your packet of both of the links to those recordings, as well as the current schedule of workshops for the ATP. And again, those are the main highlights. If you're planning on any requests for authorization this year, we ask for them by the end of next month, by January 31st, and to make sure that they're properly programmed in the RTIP, and so that we can get them done in time for this fiscal year. And yeah, I think that's all the information I wanted to highlight, unless there's any further questions that we wanted to go over. I know I've been away past a couple of meetings, so but those grant opportunities are kind of a big deal right now.
Thank you, Rob. Any comments or questions for Rob? I don't see any.
I mean, most of the trainings are online. You can see the link there at the bottom of the screen. Even the Resident Engineer Academy and the Federal Aid Series, they've all gone to an online format as well. So they're still filling up quickly. If you see some dates that you want to save as a placeholder, make sure you check those as well.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Rob.
Great. Thank you.
And before we adjourn, I'd like to announce the date for our next meeting, which is scheduled for Thursday, January 20th at 9 a.m. And at that meeting, Tom, we expect you to provide a full report on your test drive. And happy holiday to everyone. If there is any other comments as a general comment on the floor, I'd like to entertain it at this point.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Sabir.
Oh, thank you. I just want to report to the cities and the members. I am a member of the task force trying to rewrite the MUTCD with the new speed setting law that was approved by the state of California, I think 2 or 3 months ago, and signed by the governor. So there was a legal questions that you probably gonna need to know, that the law becomes effective January 1st, 2022. But also in the law, it says when Caltrans changes or amend the MUTCD, and that won't happen until probably the mid-March into the at the California Traffic Control Devices Committee. So there is this hole between them. So the legal side of Caltrans has asked Caltrans staff to issue a bulletin. I think they call it bulletin. So basically to the cities that if you want to do a speed survey during these months, which is January, February, and the middle of March, here's some of the guidelines that you need to consider based on the new law. Otherwise, if they did not have done that, or I mean, I don't know, I'm assuming they will have the bulletin out, but if they didn't have any bulletin out, basically that period is in limbo. And if you do a speed survey, there is a chance that that speed survey will be thrown out of court because it does not have anything to follow. So just for you cities, if you can probably wait until after January to do any speed survey, I'm sorry, after March, that'll be good, but you probably still have the option to do it based on the guidelines of the bulletin that is coming out. We're working hard with the task force. There is I wish they had more traffic engineers participate in the initial write-up of the bill. They had these people that, and it really has a lot of holes, at least from my perspective, looking at it. It's because they eliminated some section, they added some section, and these sections don't start until later on. And it's a little bit messy. So we are trying to write the MUTCD based on the legal guidance that we are getting from Caltrans legal team. So just wanted the committee to know that. So be on lookout if you want to do any speed survey after January for this Caltrans bulletin regarding speed setting in California. Thank you all.
Thank you, Zubair.
Yeah, Chair, if I may, thank you for that comment. And I was going to offer, I'd hit you up and take you for a ride on that test drive. But as you heard, or as you saw, it's a solo ride. But in the future, if there's multi-passenger rides, I'll be sure to hit you up and we'll go test it out and provide a full report for this team. So anyway, yeah, excited to see about that. I actually got a chat text from Ed, and I think it's Ed Alberto that works with Julie now over in Escondido, and he's their new traffic engineer. And he mentioned that the Solo is on display at UTC Westfield Mall. So I actually did sign up for a test drive, so I'll let you know if what that experience is like, but you can go over and check it out at UTC. So anyway, thank you and happy holidays.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you. Any other last minute comments?
Well, I see a comment in the chat frame from Maureen, the city of San Diego. Basically, she asked that whether Caltrans or IT will be conducting workshops or webinars to detail the new laws and the implementation. This question is for Zubair.
Thank you. I don't know. I don't think Caltrans, what they want to do that probably is interest to the agencies is that they will update the speed setting manuals, which is a separate document that Caltrans puts out with a lot of examples how the new law works. That's I know. I don't know about the workshops. I don't know about ITE workshops. I know what I know, so I'll be happy probably sometimes in the coming future to sit down with either this group or an, ITE, whatever it is, and give you guys what I think. And but for now we haven't changed the MUTCD. We're trying to figure out more the legal side of it. What can we put in the MUTCD based on those legals and the halls that are in the law itself? So that's so yeah, please wait. We probably will have ITE probably would be very interested in putting workshop. I hope Santec, CTEC, if it still exists, we'll put something to our members, because I think this is very important to our members, but I'll be happy to help on this task. Thanks.
Hey, Zubair, there's another comment on the chat. Maybe you have the answer to that. This is from Phil Kern. Does anybody in the group know of an expert on Assembly Bill 43 related to speed management?
I don't know what they mean by speed management. The AB 43 is the bill that changed how we set speed limit in California. And the big thing is the old way, it was just banked or just set on the 85th percentile. And from it, you can go up and down or the lowest. And then you have another section in the MUTCD. I'm sorry, yeah, in the MUTCD or the law that gives you, if they are conditions that are not apparent to drivers, you can reduce it by another 5 miles per hour. The new bill takes into consideration the safety side too. So when you're considering the 85th percentile, you need to consider the safety, and they created the safety corridor. They created these zones like the business activity zone, the senior zone, where you can set the speed limit in those zones. That's what the new bill. So I don't know the speed management. What do they mean by speed management in this context? But this is basically a law how for us in California to set the speed limit so it is acceptable in court.
Thank you. Antoinette, do you have anything to add?
I just wanted to suggest that we consider an educational workshop on this topic at the start of the new year, if there's interest in that. I think part of the new work plan, if you look it over, is that we sort of quarterly have kind of educational forums on topics of interest to the group. And it sounds like this one is of interest to the entire group. So I think I can work with Alex to put together a panel and a forum on this if you're interested.
Thank you. That's a great idea.
So BR, I'll be reaching out to you.
I'll be waiting for you.
I mean, this is a perfect, really sidebar discussion here, but the idea here is like, this will be a perfect sort of concept within that task force.
Technical task force, yeah.
Yes, the technical task force.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great. Well, thank you, everybody. This was a very, very informative meeting, at least for me. And once again, wish you a happy holiday. And if there is nothing else, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Happy holiday, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Happy holiday, everyone.